Here's the thing nobody wants to admit. You could be making six figures right now and still have no idea if you're actually wealthy. Because the numbers they throw around on TV, the income brackets, the salary ranges, they're all missing the point. The real line between middle class and upper class, it's not what you think. And in 2026, that line just shifted in a way most people didn't see coming. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually checked your net worth? Not your salary, not what you make per year, but what you actually own minus what you owe. Most people never do this. They just assume that because they're earning decent money, they must be doing okay. But here's what the data shows, and this might sting a little. The average person making $150,000 a year has roughly the same net worth as someone making $60,000. How? Because one of them spends everything they earn and the other one doesn't. That's the trap. We've been taught to measure success by income, how much flows through your bank account each month. But the wealthy, they don't think that way. They measure something completely different. And once you understand what they're actually tracking, the whole game changes. So today, we're breaking down the exact net worth number that officially puts you in the upper class in 2026. Not based on guesses or feel-good advice, but actual Federal Reserve data. We'll look at how this number has changed, why it's different than you'd expect, and most importantly, what it actually takes to get there. Because here's the truth, it's probably more achievable than the internet wants you to believe. But you have to stop doing what everyone else is doing. So make sure to stay until the end, leave a like, and let's start with the confusion. Because when most people hear upper class, they picture something specific. Maybe it's a person driving a Range Rover, living in a gated community, taking 3 vacations a year, the kind of lifestyle you see all over social media. But that image, it's almost always wrong, because what you see on the outside rarely matches what's happening in someone's bank account. I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, I met someone who drove a brand new Mercedes, wore expensive watches, and constantly posted about business class flights. On paper, upper class, right? Except when we actually talked about money, he admitted he was $80,000 in debt and couldn't afford to quit his job for even 2 months. Compare that to someone else I know who drives a 10-year-old Honda, lives in a modest house, and you'd never guess they have a net worth over $2 million. Never. So what's the difference? Why does one person look rich but feel broke, while the other looks average but is actually wealthy? It comes down to one thing: assets versus liabilities. What you own versus what you owe. And this is where most people get it completely backward. See, society trains us to focus on income. We ask, what do you do? How much do you make? But income is just a flow. It comes in, it goes out. It doesn't tell you anything about stability. You can make $300,000 a year and still be living paycheck to paycheck if your expenses match your income. And that's not even rare. According to recent surveys, nearly 60% of Americans earning over $100,000 say they feel financially stressed. Why? Because they upgraded their life every time they got a raise, and now they're stuck on what's called the hedonic treadmill. More money, same problems. Net worth, on the other hand, tells you the real story. It's the number that shows whether you are actually building anything or just renting a lifestyle. And when researchers want to figure out who's truly upper class, they don't look at salaries, they look at balance sheets. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Federal Reserve releases data every few years on household wealth in America, and the most recent numbers paint a picture that most people don't expect. The median household net worth in the United States, meaning the exact middle, half above, half below, is around $192,000. That's everything. Your house, your car, your retirement accounts, your savings, minus all your debts. For the typical American household, that's where they land. But that number is heavily skewed by age. If you're in your 20s or early 30s, the median net worth is closer to $40,000. By your 40s, it jumps to around $150,000. And by the time you hit your 60s, it climbs to roughly $410,000. So age matters. A lot. You can't compare a 25-year-old to a 55-year-old and expect the same numbers. Now let's move up the ladder. To be in the top 50% of households, you need a net worth of about $200,000. Comfortable, but not wealthy. To crack the top 25%, you're looking at roughly $550,000. That's where you start seeing people who own their homes outright, have solid retirement savings, and maybe some investment properties or stock portfolios. But the real shift happens at the top 10%. This is where the upper class begins. And according to the latest Federal Reserve data, to be in the top 10% of American households by net worth, you need approximately $1.4 million. That's the line. Not $10 million, not $50 million, just $1.4 million in total net worth. Now, before you close this video thinking that sounds impossible, stay with me, because when you break it down by age, this number becomes way more realistic. If you're in your 30s, being in the top 10% of your age group only requires around $400,000 to $500,000 in net worth. In your 40s, it's closer to $850,000. It's only when you hit your 50s and 60s that the bar rises to that $1.4 million to $2 million range. What does this actually mean? It means that being upper class isn't about being a multimillionaire. It's about being in a position where your money works harder than you do, where your investments generate enough passive income, that your lifestyle isn't entirely dependent on your next paycheck. That's the shift. That's what separates middle class from upper class. Not the car you drive, not the house you live in. But whether or not you could stop working tomorrow and still be okay 6 months from now. And here's the unexpected part. In 2026, this number hasn't gone up as much as people think. Inflation hit hard over the last few years, sure. Housing prices skyrocketed. But net worth growth didn't keep pace for most people. In fact, the gap between the top 10% and everyone else has widened, which means fewer people are crossing into that upper class threshold, even though it feels like everyone around you is getting richer. So why does $1.4 million feel so unreachable? Because most of us are doing everything backward. We're playing the wrong game. Let me explain what I mean. The average person focuses on income. They get a raise, they celebrate, they upgrade their apartment, or buy a nicer car. They think, I'm making more money, so I must be doing better. But their net worth barely moves, because every dollar that comes in gets spent on lifestyle. Meanwhile, the people who actually reach that upper class level, they do the opposite. They keep their lifestyle the same, even when their income grows, and they funnel the difference into assets. Maybe they started earning more thanks to their YouTube channel and spend everything in useless things. But I know you're not that type of person. So if you want to know how to make money with YouTube from zero, join my free community with the link below. Here's a perfect example. Let's say two people both get a $20,000 raise. Person A immediately upgrades their car lease, moves to a nicer apartment, and starts eating out more. Their monthly expenses go up by $1,500. Person B keeps driving the same car, stays in the same place, and invests that extra $1,500 every month into index funds. After 10 years, Person A still has roughly the same net worth they started with. Person B? They've added over $250,000 to their net worth, assuming average market returns. Same raise, completely different outcome. That's the game. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep and what you do with it. And this is where most people get stuck, because they're surrounded by pressure to spend. Social media shows you highlight reels, your friends are upgrading, your family asks why you're still driving that old car, and slowly, without even realizing it, you start playing the game of looking successful instead of becoming successful. But here's what nobody tells you. The people who actually have money, the ones sitting on 7-figure net worths, they usually look the most boring. They're not flashy, they don't post their wins, they just quietly let their assets compound, while everyone else is busy financing their image. And compounding, that's the secret. That's the part that makes this whole thing possible, even if you're starting from zero. Because wealth isn't built in a year. It's built over decades. And the earlier you start, the less you actually have to contribute to reach that $1.4 million mark. Let's do some quick math. If you're 25 years old and you start investing $500 a month into a diversified portfolio, and you average a 7% annual return, by the time you're 55, you'll have roughly $1.2 million. That's without increasing your contributions, without getting lucky, without starting a business. Just $500 a month for 30 years. If you bump that up to $750 a month, you hit $1.8 million. That's upper class. By net worth built on a completely average income. But here's the catch. Most people don't start at 25, they start at 35, or 40, or never. And the later you start, the harder it gets. Because you lose the one advantage you can't buy back. Time. This is why the question isn't really, what net worth makes you upper class? The real question is, how long are you willing to delay gratification? Because reaching that level isn't complicated, it's just uncomfortable. It means saying no when everyone else says yes. It means driving a car that's paid off while your coworker finances a luxury SUV. It means skipping the vacation you can technically afford, because you'd rather invest the money instead. And most people can't do that. Not because they don't earn enough, but because they don't want to look like they earn less. They'd rather feel rich now than be rich later. And that decision, that split, that's what keeps the majority stuck in the middle class forever. Now let's talk about what being upper class actually feels like. Because if you've never been there, you probably imagine it wrong. You might think it's about luxury, about not checking price tags, about upgrading everything in your life. But that's not it. Not even close. The people I know who've crossed into that $1.4 million net worth range, they'll tell you the same thing. It doesn't feel like winning the lottery. It feels like relief. It feels like breathing room. It's the moment you realise that an unexpected $5,000 expense won't derail your life. It's being able to take a month off work without panicking. It's looking at your investment accounts and knowing that even if you never add another dollar, compound growth will carry you forward. That's the shift. Your relationship with money changes. You stop obsessing over it because it's no longer controlling you. You stop checking your bank account every other day. You stop feeling that low-grade anxiety every time a bill comes in, and you start making decisions based on what you actually want, not what you can barely afford. But here's the interesting part. Most people who reach this level don't change their lifestyle much. They don't suddenly start buying designer clothes or eating at Michelin star restaurants every week. They just feel calmer, more in control. And that calm, that's worth more than any material upgrade, because once you hit that point, you realise something important. The gap between middle class and upper class isn't actually that wide in terms of how you live day to day. The real gap is in how you feel. One group is stressed, living month to month, hoping nothing breaks. The other group has options, and options equal freedom. So how do you actually get there? How do you go from wherever you are now to $1.4 million in net worth? It's not a mystery. It's just a series of decisions that most people aren't willing to make consistently. First, you have to track your net worth, not once a year, every month, because what gets measured gets managed. And the moment you start watching that number, it changes how you think. You stop seeing purchases as isolated events and start seeing them as trade-offs. That $60,000 car, that's $60,000 that won't be compounding. That extra $500 a month on rent for a nicer place, that's $6,000 a year that could have turned into $100,000 over 15 years. Second, you automate everything. Savings, investments, retirement contributions, all of it. Because if you wait until the end of the month to invest whatever's left over, there won't be anything left over. Human nature doesn't work that way. We spend what we see, so you make the money disappear before you ever get a chance to spend it. Third, you avoid bad debt like it's poison. And by bad debt, I mean anything that doesn't generate income or appreciate in value. Car loans, credit cards, personal loans for vacations, all of it. Because debt is negative compounding. It's the opposite of wealth building. Every dollar you pay in interest is a dollar that could have been working for you. Fourth, you stay boring. You don't chase trends. You don't try to time the market. You don't dump your life savings into crypto because some influencer said it's going to the moon. You invest in index funds, real estate, or other assets that have decades of proven returns, and you leave them alone. The people who get rich quick usually go broke even quicker. The people who get rich slowly, they actually stay rich. And fifth, you give it time. Because this isn't a sprint. The first $100,000 is brutal. It feels like you're getting nowhere. But once you hit that point, things accelerate. The next $100,000 comes faster, then faster again. Because now your money is doing the heavy lifting. Your investments are generating returns that dwarf your contributions. And that's when you realise this actually works. The truth is, most people never reach the upper class because they give up too early. They try for a year or two, don't see dramatic results and go back to spending. They don't realise that wealth building's backloaded. The real gains happen in the final years, not the first ones. So here's where you probably are right now. Maybe you're sitting on $50,000 in net worth. Maybe $200,000. Maybe you're starting from zero. and you're looking at that $1.4 million number thinking, there's no way. But let me tell you something. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't as big as it feels. It's just time plus consistency. That's it. No secret strategy. No lucky break. Just the willingness to keep going when everyone else quits. Because in 10 years, you're going to be 10 years older no matter what. The only question is whether you'll be 10 years older and still broke, or 10 years older and financially free. And that decision, you're making it right now. Every time you choose to invest instead of spend. Every time you say no to the upgrade. Every time you prioritize future. You overcurrent you. And one day, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 15, you'll check your net worth and realize you've crossed that line. You're officially in the top 10%. You're upper class. Not because you inherited money, not because you got lucky, but because you played a different game than everyone else. And you played it long enough to win. So if you're serious about this, if you actually want to build real wealth and not just look like you have it, then you need to start today. Track your net worth, automate your investments, cut the bad debt, stay consistent, and give it time. The path is clear. Most people just aren't willing to walk it. But if you're ready to stop chasing income and start building assets, then welcome to the long game. It's the only one that actually pays off. If you want more strategies on building wealth the smart way, hit subscribe. Oh, anyway, I opened a new completely free community where I explain how to create and scale your YouTube channel. After an experience with over 10 successful channels, there I will give you all my strategies and tips to monetize and scale your faceless YouTube channel, and I will help you step by step, since YouTube is the golden opportunity of 2026 if done well. I'm waiting for you. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.